Hello and welcome back everyone, we Weeb Online, and today I'm gonna continue the story What If Naruto Was Manipulated by Hinata, Part 4. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up, and to watch more videos like this, subscribe to my channel and turn that bell notification on so you never miss an upload. Now wasting no more time, let's begin.
I pushed the bushes out of the way and walked out onto the beach. The Kiri ninjas were looking for me like crazy dogs in the thick forest behind me. Following some time getting used to my presence, Kimamaru asked, "What should I call you?" "You don't need to be so formal around me. Call me Hinata, and in public, you can call me anything like Lady Hinata, Queen Hinata, Your Highness, Princess, or Hinata-sama," I joked. He nodded and said, "I get it." Ren was interested and said, "You look pretty happy, Lady Hinata." "Why shouldn't I be? I have the best skills in my hand," I told myself as I thought of Naruto and Neji. They were gone for a long time. I said with a smile, "I'm in a good mood because we're going home." Ren didn't believe my BS, but he didn't follow up either. "Konoha, I'm coming, and Naruto-kun, I need to get some things ready for you. I hope you'll appreciate all the work I put into making you strong. Hee hee. Little fox, wait for me. Your angel will soon be there to greet you." Since dawn was coming up soon, there wasn't as much mist around the beach as there was at night, but that didn't bother me. A few hundred meters away, I could see Ritsu and Haku. There were no obstacles once we got to the water. Ren grabbed Kimimaro and walked right behind me as I made my way to our little homemade boat. We finally got there. I jumped into the air and landed on the ice cube that Haku-chan had made. Lady Hinata. The two of them both said, "You're back," at the same time. "Yes," I said as I looked at the ice cube. Haku-chan learned how to do ice release, and I helped him, of course. I told Haku-chan, "You did a good job," and I meant it. He was literally making too much progress for his age. He looked better when he heard my praise. He said in a shy voice, "It's all because of you." Now, don't be too shy, Haku-chan. Here, let me introduce you to the new member of our little group. "This is Kimimaro," I said to Kimimaro, "and this is Haku-chan." Haku smiled at Kimimaro and said, "Welcome, Kimimaro. I hope we will become good friends." "I hope so, Haku-chan," he said in a strange way. He spoke in a loud voice. "Don't call me that. Only Hinata-sama could call me that." The rabbit in his hand looked menacingly at Kimimaro. A surprised look showed up on my face. "What the hell are you talking about, Haku-chan? It's not like you to act this way. You act like a pet whose owner brought another pet home. You will now be left alone." I smiled and told Haku-chan, "Don't be rude. No one will call you that, okay?" Then I looked at the other kid. He didn't say anything, just nodded at me. He didn't know how to talk to people, and he felt really awkward around us. He was quiet and shy, in other words. Haku said with a friendly smile, "I don't want to be rude, but just call me by my name." When I got my order, I said, "That's good. Let's go." Ritsu pushed the boat off the dock. "Because we're going a different way, it will take us 4 to 5 days to get home." I didn't want to go into the land of hot springs because I was afraid that the search for Ranmaru's killer would end there. When I run into some Konoha ninjas, it would be a pain to clean up. I thought about Naruto and said, I hope he was able to cut the coin. Why am I looking forward to getting home so much? A few days ago. Konoha. In a flat. Naruto looked at the coin, which was split into 2 neat pieces. He laughed out loud and said, "Ha ha, finally, he had reached his goal." He had become very good at the wind element, but he didn't know it. He practiced day and night, even though people in the village were talking behind his back and staring at him with hate. Just like she said, they made him think of her beautiful face with a warm smile every time he heard them. The whispers of the villagers eventually faded into the background, leaving only her. It was like a miracle had happened. He had no idea that the disease called Hinata had grown deep into his bones. He was hooked on her like a drug. It made his day to just think about her. And the Hokage did give him an apartment, just like she said he would. He also gave him a monthly allowance, but it was nothing compared to what she had given him. His childish mind believed in her ability to see into the future without any doubt. "When is this month going to end?" he muttered. He couldn't wait to see his only friend. He walked over to his bed, grabbed some more coins, and began cutting them. "She'll be shocked when she sees this," he said. He kept doing what he was told over and over again. He started to train even harder and more focused as he thought about how and what they would play when he met her. He smiled and did it. But what he didn't know was that his angel, who he thought was his only friend, had plans for him to get stronger. However, the price was unknown. I hope he would understand that. But his one and only friend would make sure he liked it, even if he didn't. She would care for and love him even more once he fell into the dark abyss. For a while, Shikaku moved a shogi piece and watched for his friend Inoichi to move. Their other friend Choza was interested in the game and had a bag of potato chips in his hand. Even though everyone knew who would win from the start, it was still fun to watch. The three clans were very close to each other and got together from time to time to talk about the future. Today was one of those days for them to get together. While they talked, their kids played in the garden a short distance away. Shikaku took a quick look at the kids and then moved, saying, "Kids grow up too fast." He replied, "Indeed," and then he moved. Shikaku brought up the subject of the school. "What do you think about the academy? Should we send them this year or wait a few years?" They knew it wasn't the best time for the academy, but they were open to each other's ideas. Inoichi thought about it for a while. "We should send them next year. By the time they graduate, they will be around 12 years old." Shikaku said, and nodded. They both agreed that their kids would be enrolled at the same time so that the famous trio could be made. This was how their alliance always worked. "You lost again," Shikaku said with a laugh. From the side, Choza asked, "Have you thought about who will be their Jonin sensei?" Inoichi replied, "We'll see that later. We have many years to think about it." It was easy for them to put their kids on the same team and pick a leader for the group. It was said that the Hokage could pick the teams based on how well the students did, but everyone knew that the clan heads could change things. People without power were the only ones who had to follow this rule. "So, Inoichi, how was your trip to see the Hyuga clan?" Shikaku was interested. He no longer thought Hinata was guilty, but this made him even less sure. He looked at Ino and said, "Nothing special. Parents have to suffer between two spoiled brats." Shikaku hadn't told Inoichi that he still thought Hinata was guilty. He was a sensible person who didn't start fights between clans. He asked, "Did something happen there?" "Not much." Hayashi's daughter said sorry when her mother told her to. "She is more spoiled than Ino," Inoichi said about what had happened at the Hyuga clan, or so he thought. Shikaku nodded to show that he got it. He felt calm and at ease after hearing what Inoichi had to say. He thought what she told him to think. He said with a small laugh, "That's what happens when you spoil your child too much." He felt very lucky that his son was grown up and didn't bother him. Shikamaru acting like Ino or Hayashi's daughter would be too much trouble. Shikamaru said, "Why don't we go to the park?" His only wish was to lie down on the grass and look up at the clouds. Choji squinted his eyes and said, "I don't want to go to the park. What if that weirdo with the white eyes comes and steals my chips again?" Hikaru asked, "Didn't she become our friend?" It was funny for Ino to say, "HMPH. Who wants to be friends with her? Let's play here." But she was really scared of her. She didn't want to be picked on again. Her only goal was to stay away from her as much as possible. "Okay," he replied. Before Hinata left, one day, a member of the Anbu stood in front of Hayashi in the Hyuga compound. He was there to bring the message from the Hokage. Clan leader, Hokage-sama instructed me to convey the message that Ranmaru Hyuga had died on the mission, he said calmly. That worried look and frown showed up on Hayashi's face. He asked, "Where is the dead body?" "The enemy set it on fire right there," the Anbu ninja said. The way Hayashi looked at the Anbu with suspicion and intensity made him feel uneasy. Hayashi said, "This seems too fishy." Up until now, one of the elders had talked to him. The elder said, "Why don't you go explain things to the Hokage the right way?" Hayashi thought about what the elder said and then went to the Anbu. "Tell the Hokage to arrange a meeting tomorrow." The Anbu ninja said, "I will deliver your message to Hokage-sama, clan leader," and then he or she was gone. The elder laughed and said, "So Ranmaru has died. Let's see what the Hokage has to say in this matter. Who will he blame?" Tomorrow. As Hayashi sat down in the chair, the third Hokage stood in front of him and gave off an air of grandfatherliness. Isamu and Akira, two of Ranmaru's teammates, were brought from the hospital to attend the meeting as well. Shikaku stood there as his advisor. Danzo was finally there. He couldn't have missed this. The Uchiha's eyes were red, and there were some wounds on them. Hayashi looked at them. "Tell me what happened." Isamu started to go over everything again in more depth. They all paid close attention. As soon as Hayashi was done telling his story, he looked at the Hokage with doubt in his eyes. "Don't you think it's too suspicious, Hokage-sama?" Hiruzen asked Hayashi, "What do you mean by that?" in a calm voice, though he seemed to understand what Hayashi meant. "Look at these two. They are perfectly fine with no internal injuries or anything, and a member of my clan was dead, and his body was burnt. If this is not suspicious, then I don't think anything is suspicious, Hokage-sama," Hayashi said. "A group of elites has been sent to look into it. Hayashi, if anything is found, I will let you know," Hiruzen said calmly while puffing on a pipe. Hayashi was angry and said, "Information? What will I do with that? I want the culprits, Hokage-sama." He had to tell his family that a member of his clan had died. "First it was Kumo ninjas trying to take my daughter, and now it's just one member dying on a mission," Hayashi said in a low voice that everyone could understand. His irritated tone made it clear that he didn't like how the Hokage seemed to be lacking in skill, questioning his authority and the way he was ruling. This was what the meeting was really about. "Hokage-sama, I hope you catch the bad guys," Hayashi said as he got up from his seat and left the meeting room. Both Hiruzen and Danzo looked at Hiruzen the same way. They both thought the same thing. They were suspicious of each other. For Danzo, it was a great chance. The Hyuga clan didn't like how the Hokage was running things, and once he got rid of the Uchiha clan, it would be easy for him to get rid of Hiruzen with the support of the Hyuga clan. Once he is Hokage, he will also take advantage of them. When Hayashi got to his clan, everything had gone as planned. He walked to his house after talking to clan elders about what was going on and explaining what was going on. He said while sitting on the couch, "The house is very quiet without my princess." His wife sat down next to him and served him tea. "You're right, it's only been one day, and it feels like all the glory of the house has gone with her," she said. She was done with all of these plans and asked, "How was your meeting with the Hokage?" She thought it was just a normal meeting and had nothing to do with clan business. "Nothing special," he said as he drank his tea. She gave him a nod, and they were quiet for a while. He asked his wife, "Why are you so sad? What happened?" She looked very sad as she said, "I'm just worried about her, and she didn't even talk to me before she left." After what happened, Hinata hadn't talked to her. She had just ignored her. This was making her hurt, and she felt bad about hitting her, but she was being too unreasonable, and it was her job to teach her daughter. He told her, "She'll forget about it in a while." She told him with a nod, "I hope so," adding, "But you shouldn't have done that." "Are you still mad at me?" she asked him. There was nothing said by Hayashi. "Now don't act like your daughter," she told him as she took his hand and led him to their room. If you are still mad, you can shout it out in the room, she said with a sexy smile. He was going to say something, but he followed her into the room and shut the door behind her. Haku said, "This is beautiful," as he stroked the rabbit's head. I hummed, We were on top of a hill and looking down at Konoha. The moon over our heads made the city look beautiful at night. At this late hour, 98% of the people were asleep. Only the patrol ninjas were awake and working. Close their tenketsu points, I explained to Ren. As soon as I told him what to do, he did it, and in no time at all, we were all ready to break through the village sensory barrier. I didn't think anyone would be able to find Haku and Kimimaro because the chakra signature was registered after people started their missions. They are proud to be part of the Hyuga clan as of tomorrow. Let's go. To avoid the ninjas who were on duty, we all moved toward the clan. And in 30 minutes, I was standing at the clan's high wall. The village was on one side of me and the clan was on the other. Both boys heard me and knew they should follow me. This is your new home from now on, I told them. I told Ren to tell my dad that I got there, and I told Ritsu to call the elders. I did this as soon as I got to the meeting room. It was important to me to finish up quickly with Haku and Kimimaro. The two guards who were watching over the meeting room bowed and opened the gate while giving them a nod. I walked into the room slowly and sat down on the chair across from the clan leader's seat. It was clear that they were both scared about what was going to happen. Don't worry about anything, just do as they ask. Remember, you are going to see them on a daily basis, so consider them as your uncles and grandpas, I said with a slight chuckle. When I looked at the little rabbit and said, "Come here, little bunny," it squished when it heard my voice. It jumped into my arms with wobbly legs. That's great that you know what's best for you. Then I began to gently pet its soft fur. After only 1 minute, I heard a happy, loud voice say, "My princess, you are finally here. Do you know how much your daddy missed you?" My dad then became overprotective, which I loved. A sweet smile on my face, I asked, "How much do you miss me, Dad?" He began to mess up my hair and say, "Very much." I laughed and asked, "How much?" He said, "Very, very much." My dad asked, "You look really happy. Did something happen while I was away?" I raised an eyebrow in interest. His lips showed a strange smile. "It's a surprise." "Surprise? What surprise? Tell me, Dad," I asked him with my eyes poked out. "It won't be a surprise if I told you," he stated. I looked away from him and said, "HMPH, if you don't want to tell me, don't tell me." He said in a sweet voice, "Don't be like this, princess," hoping to get me to change. However, the room's door suddenly opened, and one by one, the elders came in and took their seats. All of them were very important to the clan and kept it stable politically and financially. They were the backbone of the clan, even though they didn't train anymore. The oldest elder, whose name was Kazuya, said, "Little girl, you are finally here." The clan was getting boring. I looked at them and asked, "Really, Gramps?" All of them said, They looked away from me and toward Haku and Kimimaro, activating their Byakugan. All of a sudden, the pressure in the room rose. One of them asked, "So these are the jerks you're talking about?" "That's them, and stop scaring them," I urged. The room went back to how it was before, and Haku and Kimimaro let out the breath they were holding. He came forward when he heard me say, "Haku-chan, come show what you got." When he raised his hand, a blob of water appeared and began to freeze right away, showing off his rare Kekkei Genkai. He moved back when I raised my hand. Then I looked at Kimimaro and made a hand motion to him. His skin tore apart as he stepped forward and raised his palm to the elders. Blood dripped from his wounds and a white bone poked out from beneath his skin, but it was also beautiful and horrifying at the same time. When I gave him the go-ahead, his bone went back into his hand, leaving his palm as smooth as it was before. I told myself, I will soon start testing things on him. With a smirk, I asked the older people, "So, what do you think?" "Wow," one of them said out loud. All the members in the room knew what that meant after seeing two of them show off their Kekkei Genkai. They could be the strongest if they were properly cared for, and the clan's power would grow by a huge amount. With Hinata, Neji, and the two boys, their clan had 4 monsters. Based on how far they had come so far, they were definitely on track to reach the S rank or even higher. Also, their clan was filthy rich, so they wouldn't think twice about investing in the people who would become the next leaders of the clan. No one would be able to beat them in just 10 years. Good, very good. I could see different kinds of sparkles in their eyes. "Calm down, everyone. Your greed is dripping," I said. They quickly woke up. That's a story for another time about how I got them to go on my trip. "What did the Hokage tell you about Ranmaru?" I asked him. One of the elders laughed and said, "Just as you thought, he blamed Kumo." I smiled and nodded. "How much pressure can our clan put on the Hokage?" I wanted to know. "What we want from him," was what my dad said. I told my thoughts. "That's good. When the academy is over, I want these two on my team." "Okay," my dad said with a nod. Our conversation then turned to other important clan matters and other subjects. Another hour went by, and then it was 5 a.m. The people in the clan began to wake up. The only people left in the room after the meeting were my dad, the two boys, and me. "Your mother was worried about you. Why don't you go and talk to her?" he said. "HMPH, I don't want to. She is not my mother. She hit me, father," I yelled. He asked, "Are you still mad at her?" I said, "No, I'm not, but my face showed that I wasn't." "Well, I wasn't really angry. Why should I be mad at my own plan?" "Don't behave like that. Just talk to her, just once, for me. Will you do it, my princess?" he asked gently. After being quiet for a moment, I nodded. The two of them followed me like ducklings as I left the room. "I'll talk to her just because you asked," I said. Following their long journey, I told them, "You two must be tired and hungry. Take it easy for a few days, and then we'll start your real training." I then told Ren to lead them to their new home. It was time to meet my dear brother after everything was over. I screamed, "Big brother, where are you?" loud enough to wake everyone up. "Big brother, big brother, big brother." I didn't stop yelling until his room door opened and he ran out. He excitedly called out, "Little sister," and ran toward me with a happy face. He stopped all of a sudden, though, and his face showed that he felt betrayed. He began to complain, "You didn't take me with you. You left me here by myself." I patiently listened to him go on and on about how unfair I was. He turned his head away from me and said, "You're not the same sister I remember." A sweet voice asked, "Is Big Brother mad at me?" I gave him a hug. He said, "Yes, I am," but I could tell that his voice and body language had changed. He looked angry, but he wasn't. "Why are you mad at your little sister?" I said, "I'm sorry," in a whisper as I patted him on the back. With a sorry face, I asked quietly, "Will you forgive me?" This made his heart melt. It was true that he said, "You have to take me with you next time," because a smile started to show on his face. When I saw my brother happy, it made my eyes shine too. "You are the best big brother." Thud. The sound of my body hitting the ground showed that I was completely worn out. Neji was in even worse shape than I was next to me. When I got home, I went back to training taijutsu for 8 to 9 hours every day like I had been doing before. Everything was the same as it was the day I got back. Nothing had changed. I asked my dad to help me with some things before I left. I hope he did them. I took off my clothes and stood up. With a smirk, I reached out and pulled Neji up. I won again. "Big brother, are you ready to do as I say?" The winner could ask for anything, and the other person had to do that thing. We practiced the same thing and ate the same things. So why do you always win? He said. I told him, don't worry, big brother. You will win someday. And then I patted him on the back like a good sister. That's what you always say, I said. Well, whatever. I'll win soon. Now, tell me what you want me to do, he said, as if I were about to say something bad. Don't be like this, big brother. You just have to be my target practice, just like we did some years ago with balloons, I told him, happy. His face turned into a frown. But we have a dummy for this. Why do you need me? I smiled and said, because you're my brother. You're being unreasonable again. I told him, HMPH, if you don't want to do this, then fine. Then I turned away from him. When he saw me like this, he said, fine, I'll do it. I smiled a sweet smile. That's my big brother. As soon as I grabbed his hand, I ran home to make a good meal for us that my sweet mother had made. I was going to pick on her some more. Right after I quickly took a bath, the four of us sat down at the table. My dad asked him, did you win, Neji? Neji took a step back. Not today, but I will win someday. That's the spirit, son, my dad told him. After serving the food, my mom sat down on the chair and asked me with a smile, how's your day, sweetie? I didn't answer at all. I instead asked my dad, Father, where is the thing I told you about? He was about to open the scroll and said, the weapon you designed was very unique and interesting. Your father asked the best weapon shop to make it, and here it is. But my mom gave him a mean look. Let us eat peacefully. You can show her after dinner, she said to me. Neji was interested and asked, why do we need weapons? The clan was proud of the way they fought, so they wouldn't use any weapons out of pride. It's just for fun. Imagine us defeating someone with random weapons, without using our gentle fist. Wouldn't it hurt their pride that we didn't consider them strong enough to use our main fighting style? I told my foolish brother. Sometime, I taught him how to completely destroy someone, whether it was through words, actions, thoughts, or feelings. My dad looked at Neji and me. I know you are talented and powerful, but don't let your arrogance carry you away, said he. Yes, father, I said with a nod, like I knew something important. We talked about different things while we finished our dinner. Along with Neji, my dad left the house to wait for me to get the gun I had asked for. There was just my mom and me in the dining room. She looked at me and begged me to forgive her. After that, I hadn't talked to her since. Usually, I play and talk with her a lot. Chidi, are you mad at me still? She asked. It was like I didn't even notice she was there because I didn't say anything to her. Say something, she begged, her voice rising. What is child abuse? I'm going to hurt parents. I laughed to myself as I left the room, which broke her already fragile heart even more. Don't worry, Mom. I'll make you feel better with a sweet smile. Let me break you some more because I know you can't fight me. You shouldn't do that again, even if it was part of my plan. Should you choose to do something that goes against my plans, please do it. Show me how much you love me. Just as I was leaving the room, I heard her say, Wait, Hinata, talk to mommy. I tilted my head and looked right at her. It got harder for me to see, and my cheeks started to feel wet. I sniffled and said, You are not my mommy. You hit me in front of other people, Sob. I didn't do anything wrong, and you didn't even ask me. You're a heartless woman who didn't love me. Just go talk to those kids. I am not your daughter. At the end, my tears were pouring out like a broken dam, and I was crying like a child. The words and tears I shed hurt her heart so badly that they were sharper than arrows. How could she not feel bad? Also, her eyes began to tear up. She hugged me and said, I'm sorry. I won't do that again. I'm such a jerk for making my mom cry. I looked up at her with teary eyes, and a scared look came across my face. How could I make my mom cry? As a good daughter, I did what she asked. Mom, why are you crying? Did I hurt you? I asked as I began to wipe her tears away with my little hand. I said, I'm sorry, Mom. I will never do that. Even if you hit me, I don't want you to cry. I'm sorry, over and over again as I wiped her tears away. I thought it was the most beautiful thing I had ever seen her sad face slowly turn into a sweet smile. She gave me a tight hug and said, I'm sorry too. I will never do that again. Now don't cry, baby. When I forgive her, her smile got even bigger. She asked me sweetly, did you forgive your mommy? I smiled at her and said yes, which made her heart melt. I acted like a spoiled princess for the next 10 minutes while she kissed me, hugged me, patted my back, and ruffled my hair. That's the mom I want. I asked her with a smile, as if I had forgotten how mad I was at her. Mom, you and Dad look so happy, and Dad was talking about a surprise. What is it? I was talking very quickly. Do you want to know? She asked in a strange way. I didn't stop nodding. She put her hand on her stomach and raised it. There is a baby in there. So, what do you want? A brother or sister? She looked at me. I got a happy and surprised look on my face. I said, wow, there's a baby in Mama's tummy. I asked, can I touch? Can I touch? I raised my hand and put it on her belly when she nodded. My mom laughed and said, don't get too excited. You'll be able to hear and feel it in 5 to 6 months. Okay. So what do you want, a brother or sister? She asked me. I said something cute like, I don't know, maybe both. She laughed and ruffled my hair. I was like a child and asked her, Mom, how does the baby come to your belly? I could see that her face was getting red. I'll tell you when you're young. Also, did you forget that your father and Neji are waiting for you? She asked, getting out of the question. I forgot about that, she said. I ran out of the house like a child, too excited to ask her anything else. As I got closer to Neji and my dad, I took quick steps. In 8 months, my little sister will be born. I need to be a good big sister. No one can touch her. I'm going to teach her everything. She's mine. When Neji spoke, I snapped out of my vivid imagination. Why are you smiling like that? I looked at my dad and said, I'm very excited about my weapon. He said, let me see. He reached into his pocket and took out 2 scrolls. She said, here it is, princess. He opened the scroll with a puff of smoke and put the weapon I asked for in front of me. As I picked it up, I could feel how good the chakra metal was. It's good, I said. It looked like a staff that could be broken in 3. I grabbed its head, which looked like a short blade, from another scroll. The staff changed into a naginata with a sound like a lock. I cut the dummy cleanly by swinging the naginata into a half circle. My dad told me, the sharpness is top-notch, and I agreed. When I pressed the button, which was just above my hand, the naginata fell apart. The creature's head hit the ground, and the staff, which had springs inside it, grew a little and took on a bow-like shape. I tied a thick chakra string around the edge of my finger that could be seen with the naked eye. As I raised the bow a little, I tied the chakra string to another edge of it to finish it. Neji said, wow, that's amazing. Let's see how strong it is. The scroll had at least 100 arrows neatly placed. I took one of them and put it on the string. There was a slightly blue chakra around the arrow, which was the wind chakra that I skillfully controlled. I pulled the string as far as it would go. I raised my Byakugan and aimed at a rock behind some trees. Swab. I let go of the arrow with a tang sound. When I held my Byakugan, I could see the air moving around it. Before it went through the stone, the arrow went through at least 5 trees. How was it, Dad? I asked like a kid who wants to be praised for doing something good. I could see the pride in his eyes. He smiled and flicked my hair. You're very good, princess. Make sure to practice every day and get better every day, he said. I said, yes, Dad, and I was happy. After a few more arrow shots and staff swings, I got the hang of it. My dad went home, leaving Neji and me at the practice field by ourselves. It began to smile on my face as I looked at my brother. He took a few steps back in his mind and said, "You're being creepy again, little sister." I laughed as I threw him an apple and told him, "Be a good brother, stand there, and put this apple on your head. I'm going to shoot it, so be careful. I don't want you to get hurt, hee hee." He spat at me and stood 100 meters away. "Someday you're going to kill me," he said. "Brother, I won't let you die. I'm training you because I don't want you to lose to one of Orochimaru's failed experiments or get killed by an arrow. Now, hear me, brother. Expel the chakra from all of your Tenketsu points and maintain it like a circular dome around you. When my arrow enters the dome, react accordingly with your Byakugan." I told him what to do. This trick would have been taught to him many years ago, but I'm teaching it to him now and working on his blind spot. And limit your Byakugan vision to 10 meters. It will increase your reaction time. As I aimed an arrow, I thought, you could only get better when you were facing death. He said, "I will do what you say." Swab. The apple that was on his head was hit by my arrow, and I could see his heart beating faster. I shot the arrow again, and this time it missed his cheek by an inch. He got sweat drops on his face. I wasn't joking. This was for sure. "Are you really trying to kill me?" And then I let go of another arrow. "The next one will be aimed at your heart, brother." The speed wasn't as fast as the last one, but it was still fast enough for him to just barely get away. We still don't know how to do the rotation, but this training will help him get better at it. When I used my Byakugan, I could see a very thin shield of chakra around him. It was hard for him to see more than 10 meters away, and when the arrow went through the chakra membrane, he could barely block it with the gentle fist. This thin layer was meant to help him work on his blind spot. He could feel it and act on it, even though he couldn't see it at that moment. He said in a low voice, "This isn't funny anymore." "Did I say it would be funny?" I asked from a different set of feet. Swab. He just barely avoided getting hit by another arrow by jumping to the side. Swab. He was hit in the back with another arrow. He quickly turned around and slightly deflected it by raising his chakra-covered fingers. I told him, "Very good, brother." He said, "Hee hee, bring it on, sister." But he was also nervous and excited. For him, this was new, scary, and exciting, and each arrow could kill him. "In 10 days, you start the academy, so I want my brother to be the best," I told him as I shot another arrow, this time slightly faster. He jumped a little and caught the arrow that was aimed at his chest with both hands. Because the arrow had momentum, it pushed him back a little, and he threw it to the side and landed on the ground. He replied, "Of course, I will be the best in my class," but he was still alert. I was up against Neji, who was very strong, but that was a problem. He was strong enough to beat any Chunin-level ninja. He didn't know how strong he was, and none of the other kids in his class were even close. "That's my brother. Now avoid this," I told him as I shot him with another arrow meant for his stomach. My aim was getting better and better with each arrow. It took me at least 75 shots to aim the arrow at his blind spot this time. He couldn't see the arrow even after it came into his line of sight. But when it went through the thin membrane, he got a little scared. He gave his head a small shake, and the arrow came back into his view. He barely moved his head at the last second to avoid the arrow that could have killed him. The blind spot moved when he shook his head a little. He was able to avoid the arrow because of this. It was tricky because his blind spot changes every second because he shakes his head. If I really wanted to hit him, I had to move my arrows around his blind spot. And my archery isn't that good, but we'll both get better over time. That being said, the thin chakra dome would let him feel the arrow even if it went through his blind spot. That's why Hyugas can see in all directions. Swab. Another arrow got through his defenses and into his blind spot, but he got around this at the last minute. I wasn't careless when I shot the arrows at random. Each one had a chakra string on it. I could change the direction of the arrow if things went badly. It really put all of my skills to the test, including my ability to focus, control my chakras, see outside of myself, shoot an arrow, react quickly, and be present in the present moment. My brother could die if any of them gave up even a little. That's why I told them, "You will get better when you face death." It was true for both of us. I put another arrow on the string and shot at his weak spot. He joked as he blocked another arrow. "Now I really think that you want to kill me." And then I shot another arrow at his blind spot from a different angle. "I don't want my brother to die," I said. There were so many arrows on the practice field that I ran out of arrows to shoot. "Let's get the arrows so we can keep going," I told Neji. He turned off his Byakugan and his vision returned to normal. I asked, "So how was it?" "I could feel my heart racing with excitement," he said, still very happy. I laughed at how excited he was. As soon as I had all the arrows, I said, "Let's go. We couldn't let anyone beat us, could we?" He said, "Nope," and the Byakugan was used for another round. And just like that, we kept going until we were both completely worn out. Neji had a few scratches here and there, and my fingers were bleeding from shooting all the time. I guess nobody works out as much as we do, I thought. When the Uchiha massacre began, this archery would be very useful. I need to go to the cemetery. My name is Isamu Uchiha, and I hope to find you. I laughed out loud. Neji was interested and asked, "Why are you laughing?" I felt like it. "You act weird sometimes, sister," he told her as he laid down on the ground to sleep. It felt good to carry him on my back as I walked home. I put Neji to sleep on my room's bed and went to the library. I still had a lot of time to read since it was only 2 a.m. I pushed the door while covering my fingers with bandages. It opened with a creepy creak. I chose the last book on the shelf. It was the last book on medical ninjutsu, and I was only halfway through reading it. In the Land of Water, I made great progress on finishing the books. I just read while I was there. I picked up where I left off yesterday as I turned the pages. It talked about illnesses and how to treat them. Ren said with worry, "Lady Hinata, you should rest." It was really hard on the body to train taijutsu with Neji from 1000 p.m. to 7000 p.m. and then arrows from 9000 p.m. to 1 a.m. I only got about 5 to 6 hours of sleep a day, but that was enough. "Ren, I don't want to make any excuses, and people who make excuses even after having all the resources are destined to fail." I told him in a calm voice, "And I'm not made to lose, I'm meant to win." "I see, I was just worried about your health," he stated. When I heard him worry about me, I laughed out loud. "Tell me, Ren, how do people remember Madara Uchiha?" I asked him. He gave it some thought and then said, "In the world of shinobi, he is a legend. He was the only person who could come close to the first Hokage." I agreed with him and gave him a nod. But people never know how hard he worked, how many sacrifices he made to reach that level, his countless hours of training. They only see that he was born in the Uchiha clan, that's it. If he had made excuses, he would have died like some random shinobi we wouldn't be remembering today. Power without training and sacrifices is like theft. I turned the page to the next page and said, "If you don't earn it yourself, you will lose it one day." Ren was quiet, and I didn't say anything else. Clap. A clap sound let me know that the last book was closed. Between the ages of 3 and 4 years and 9 months, or 639 days and 5 to 6 hours of reading every day, I finally learned everything I needed to know about medicine. Now it's time to get a lab rat and do the real thing. Hee hee. I wonder what poor soul I'll pick as my victim. Danzo, get ready to lose one of your men. I started to make a plan to get my subject by tapping my finger on the table. I asked my dad to build me a small room where I could do my medical tests. He finally agreed with me after I nagged him and told him nice things. A room was then built underground below the house where Haku and Kimimaro were living at the time. It wasn't hard to make a room full of ninjas in the village. It only took a few days. I hadn't had time to go to my next home yet, though, because I was going to spend hours there. I asked, "What is the state of the graveyard?" "No, I'm not going to steal from it." "Lord Hinata, you knew that Uchiha would come every day to honor the living Ranmaru," Ren said with a laugh. I gave him a nod. I had to slowly pull him into my palm so that he would give me his valuable 3 tamo, or Mangekyo Sharingan, later on. He asked, "Lady Hinata, why go all this trouble? Why not just kill him and take his eyes?" I laughed because I didn't believe what I was saying. "Remember, Ritsu, we're professionals. We don't do weird things." And Ritsu said, "I get it." "That's fine, and don't look at what I'm writing," I told them. They both nodded and then disappeared into the darkness. I took a small scroll out of my pocket and opened it. On the table was a mysterious book with a metal cover and carvings on it. Kiri sold me this empty book. As I opened it and read the title, a mean smile began to form on my face. "Dying in Your Arms." I laughed and said, "What a beautiful and touching title." This book was just for my Naruto. I will teach him everything I want him to know, like how to speak to your partner nicely by saying things like, "Of course, I want him to tell me sweet things." I will also teach him how to kiss and how babies are made. There's a deep psychological story behind these things, and I don't want him to stay in the dark about them. He'll read it at first like a romance novel with racy scenes, but the more he reads it, the more I want him to become like me. He will learn something new every time he reads this book. It will be like a wine that has been aged for 1,000 years. I began to write it with a laugh. I'm writing every day, and this book is going to be great. Of course, I'm not going to give it to him anytime soon. Around age 10, he'll find it by accident. Hee hee, I laughed as I continued to write. I closed the book and put it in my scroll when I was done writing the page. Winter was still going on, but the sun was about to rise. I washed my face with cold water and looked in the broken mirror. There were at least 10 sets of eyes on me. "It's time to honor the living Ranmaru," I said with a laugh. I smiled and asked my mom, "Mommy, what will we name the baby?" at the dinner table. "Haha, why are you getting so impatient? It is not going anywhere," my mom said. "My dad told me, you can name it Princess if you want to." I asked, "Can I really name it?" with stars in my eyes because I was so excited. My mom told me, "Of course, sweetheart, you can." With a pout, I looked at her and said, "HMPH, I won't let you touch it when it comes out." That made them both laugh at how silly I was acting. "Okay, baby, you can have it and take care of it. I won't say anything to you," my mom said, giving me little Hanabi with joy. "Okay," I replied. My father left after dinner, and Neji was still sleeping, leaving my mother and me alone in the house. I said, "Let me help you," and we began to wash the plates together. She didn't say no when I helped her sometimes. While we washed the dishes, I talked to her about a lot of different things, mostly the baby. She gave me a plate to dry and said, "You're more excited than I am." I said in a cute voice, "Hee hee, I'll dress it up like a doll and play with it." Why did it sound so bad? My mom laughed at me because she thought I was so cute. When the last plate was done, I looked funny as I put my palm in the water with a slight curve. I was excited and told my mom, "Look what I have." She looked at me. A splash. When the water hit her face, it was cold. As I ran away, I laughed and showed her my tongue. She screamed, "You little punk, come here. Catch me if you can." "Ha ha," I said, and then I was gone. Only my sarcastic laughter lingered. When I raised both hands, tiny chakra threads that looked like silk began to weave into 2 different kinds of masks. Put them on. Not long after, Ren and Ritsu changed into some random Hyuga members. The world still didn't know about them. They didn't exist outside of the clan compound. I told the 3 of us, "Let's go," and we were gone. My dad knew I was going to the park to play, Soon, we got to the part of the cemetery where Hyuga members were buried. I looked very sad as I stood in front of Ranmaru's grave. Isamu Uchiha was coming up to the grave with flowers in his hands, and I could see him quickly with my Byakugan. It's coming. The Uchiha slowly walked toward us when he saw 3 of us standing in front of the grave of his best friend. One of his dead friends was being honored by someone other than himself for the first time. He walked up to us slowly, and when he saw that we were standing still and looking sad, he joined us. He was a good friend to me, Ren said in a sad voice, which made my blood cringe. The Uchiha said, HMPH, and nodded in his own language. Ren's nonsense continued. I heard from the clan head that he didn't get a proper burial, even though he was the one who had been burned. He died right in front of my eyes, and I couldn't do anything, the Uchiha said, feeling bad about himself. When someone said, I heard you tried to protect him with your life, I joined in the fun. Who are you, child? He asked me after a moment. Ritsu told me. She is the daughter of the clan head. This time, he was my bodyguard. I see, he replied. Every member of our clan is like family to us, and I heard you fought bravely to protect a family member. I began to spit out with my silver tongue. He did not say anything. I went on. You know how hard it is to lose a member of your family, and as a member of his family, I, Hinata Hyuga, owe you a favor for trying to protect my family. If you find yourself in some dire situation, don't hesitate to ask me. I won't let you, a friend of my family, down. I put a seed in his mind. He didn't say anything. He just nodded his head slowly. When I was done honoring the living Ranmaru, I left with my 2 servants. Kimimaro opened his eyes slowly in the Hyuga compound as the soft, warm winter morning sunlight touched his face. He let out a soft grunt and slowly opened his white, pupil-less eyes. When he turned around, he saw Haku sleeping soundly on another bed with the white rabbit curled up in his arms. Should I wake up Haku-chan? It was Kimimaro's turn to wake him up. I should call him Haku. He didn't like it when I called him that, I said. When I called him that, he became very scary. He thought to himself, that rabbit is also the same as Haku-chan. As he shook Haku's body, he said, Wake up, Haku. It's the 3rd day that Hinata-sama told us to be ready for training. He's shaking Haku's body over and over until Haku opened his white, pupilless eyes to look like Kimimaro's. Haku glared at him and said, Stop shaking me, I'm already awake. Ah, I see, he said as he awkwardly pulled his hands away with a wry smile. He still didn't know how to talk to people properly. Haku got out of bed with the rabbit in his arms. He asked with his famous smile and closed eyes, Do I look like a girl? No. Then why are you behaving like that? He asked me. Kimimaro didn't know what to say in response, so he kept quiet. Haku laughed at him. Why do Hinata and Haku-chan always make fun of me? He thought. He really liked it. It's not like he didn't like it. It had been 3 days since they moved into their new home, and they were slowly getting used to the clan and its rules. When he was with his wild and barbaric clan, people were afraid of Kimimaro. But here, no one was afraid of him, and he was treated like any other child. Kimimaro didn't know how, but everyone in the clan knew his name and Haku-chan's. With what little he knew, he came to the conclusion. Maybe those old-looking guys had told them. An old woman dressed as a maid cleaned their house and made them food. His pale face got some color back after only 5 days of traveling and 2 days of living with the clan, and his severely malnourished body began to get better in big ways. He looked at his brown hair in the bathroom. I still don't know how they changed my hair color. Let me take a quick shower so the maid doesn't get mad at me for being late. He quickly showered and walked quickly to the table, where Haku was already waiting. How did he get here so quick? He thought as he sat down in the chair. The maid had made the food ahead of time. She had been given strict orders by the older people to take care of those kids. She couldn't do what they told her to do. She smiled and said, "If you need anything, just call me." They both nodded, and they ate their food quickly. They ran out of the house to find Hinata without stopping to think about the plates. They were told to meet her at one of the practice fields, so they got excited and started to walk toward the training ground. These two people knew she was busy as the heiress of a clan because she hadn't seen them in 2 days. The moment they got to the practice area, they couldn't find her, but there was someone else sitting still on a rock. It was none other than Neji Hyuga, the smartest person in the Hyuga family and Hinata's dear brother. He slowly opened his eyes and looked right at them. The man asked in a cold voice, "Who gave you permission to come into this training ground?" This training ground was for him and his little sister. To him, they were just some kids who got lost and came in by accident. When Hinata was around, he acted like a spoiled kid and a cute older brother, but only when she was there. Besides her, he was cold, cocky, and thought he was better than everyone else, so he didn't bother with anyone else. This way of thinking was etched into his bones by his evil sister. And this was the first time he had seen someone enter their holy place with such little regard. With steady steps and his head held high, he slowly got off the stone and walked toward them. They were 5 meters away when he stopped. There was silence. The wind blew through Haku and Kimamero's long hair as they looked back into his eyes. Neji didn't know about them because he wasn't told about them. He didn't know the faces of his sister's kids because he had only heard that she had 2 from her trip. Haku and Kimimaro also didn't know Neji, but they had heard of him. Everyone in the clan said that he was the second most talented and smart person after his sister. There were praises for him all over. The staring match got worse, and the tension in the air rose. Haku and Kimimaro knew Hinata was on their side because she had told them not to be afraid of anyone. Neji was just Neji. The calm one, Haku, smiled and said, "Hinata-sama told us to come." When Neji heard his sister's name, he blinked his eyes. No one could even say her name without her permission, and he knew it better than anyone else. It was illegal to use her name. She was truly scared, and anyone who dared to talk to her in such a casual way either didn't care about their own safety or thought it was okay to do so. "Oh, so you're the 2 kids my sister bought?" He quickly understood what was going on. "Yes," said Haku with a smile. "Then you must be Hinata-sama's brother, Neji Hyuga?" he asked in the proper way. Neji's face lit up with a smirk, showing how his young master was acting. He asked, "So you're here to train?" They both agreed at the same time, which is why they were there. He asked Hinata, "Tell me, why do you want to get stronger?" "Because we want to protect and stand beside Hinata-sama," Haku told me. I saw Neji look at them. Hinata told him briefly how she saved them, and they were grateful to her. They wouldn't run away, even when they knew they were going to die. They were right in front of him. His sister was the most important thing to him, and he wanted to see if they were good enough. He told himself, "I see," as he looked into their eyes. He put his hands in his pockets and told them to attack him. "Let me see what you got." He was using a trick that his sister had taught him, a trick to make someone feel bad about their pride. Hinata trained Haku for about 20 days, so he didn't think he was weak. But Kimimaro, who had never fought before, rushed at him because he didn't like how Neji was acting. Kimimaro's skin tore apart, and a bone dagger showed up in his hands. Neji raised an eyebrow in interest and asked, "So this is the Shikatsumiyaku, the best Taijutsu ability?" This made him remember what his sister had told him about it. A smile showed up on his face when he looked at Kimimaro. He laughed to himself, "You devil sister. Haha." He quickly turned on his toes to avoid Kimimaro's attack. He hit him in the guts with his left knee raised. He felt a sharp pain in his knee as he said, "Oh, so that's why it's called the best Taijutsu ability." The attack did hurt Kimimaro, but not as much as it should have. Senbin needles were being aimed at Neji's vital points, and he had to avoid them. As he said, "I see, you are better than this one," he slightly jumped in the air. He buried Kimimaro in the ground with a roundhouse kick and put his foot on his back. He made fun of her and asked, "Is that all you've got?" When the dirt got into his mouth, Kimimaro grunted. He tried to move, but Neji's strength was too strong for him. Because he didn't fully understand how to use his Kekkei Genkai, he tried one last thing. Spiky bones came out of his back where Neji's foot was. Neji said, "Nice," but he jumped away before the bones could pierce his foot. Right after he landed, a kunai aimed at his heart went right by him. Haku quickly showed up in front of Neji by using the body flicker technique. He slashed at Neji's throat with the kunai in his hand, but Neji dodged well by arching his back to get some space between the blade and his neck. He's going the same way as Hinata, Haku thought as he stabbed Neji in the heart again with his kunai. He shot 3 senbon needles straight at them with his left hand. Without being scared, Neji raised his left knee and hit Haku on the wrist where the kunai was held. He bowed backwards so hard that his head touched the ground before the 3 senbon needles could reach him. Suddenly, Neji moved his body and kicked Haku in the chest. How does he move that way? Haku thought as he fell to the ground. Neji moved his neck a little, but kept his hands in his pockets. A bone dagger went by his ear. He spun around and jumped a little as he kicked Kimimaro 3 times at once in the knee, once in the shoulder, and finally in the head. Kimimaro was buried again. His kicks had a huge amount of force. Many of Kimimaro's bones would have been broken if he didn't have his Kekkei Genkai. This was something Neji knew, which is why he hit him so hard. He only had to make one move to hurt him if he wanted to. Even if you have strong bones or armor to protect you, the gentle fist still hurts your internal organs. It gets through all of your defenses and hurts you from the inside out. When Neji looked at Kimimaro, who was still trying to hit her, she thought, the perfect counter. He seemed to be moving very slowly to Neji. Haku used the body flicker technique to appear in front of Neji. He was very precise and deadly in all of his movements. But these didn't work because Neji was too fast. Neji avoided Haku's kunai and swept Kimimaro's legs. Just as Kimimaro was about to hit the ground, Neji kicked him hard and sent him flying at a very high speed. He smashed into the ground a lot before he finally stopped. When Neji said, "It's your time, pretty boy," he leaned to the left and lifted his right leg to kick hard. Yet, Haku put out his whole chakra and raised his hand, making a block of ice appear in front of him. However, Neji made the kick stronger and let out a little more chakra from his soles. He kicked the ice slab so hard that it broke like a mirror, and just as it was about to hit, Neji sharpened his kick a lot. What happened when the kick finally hit Haku? He flew back and landed next to Kimimaro. Neji didn't want to hurt them because he knew his sister would be mad at him if he did. He would never do something that would upset or anger his sister. But after this fight, he knew that these two had a lot of potential and that they could protect his sister. That was enough for him. He walked up to them with his hands still in his pockets and a cocky grin on his face. "I finally won for the first time, but this doesn't feel like a victory," he thought as he looked at the 2 boys lying on the ground defeated. Kimimaro looked up at the blue sky and said, "I need to get stronger." This was the first time he had lost this badly. He and Haku-chan had fought a few times before, but this was very different. He couldn't hit Neji at all. In fact, he barely made him sweat. He thought he was a rabbit in a pack of lions. Getting stronger made the fire inside him burn even stronger. If this is how far apart we are, I wonder how strong Hinata is, Haku thought as he stood up. Even though he hadn't won any fights with Hinata, she was at least a little nice to him while she taught him. But Neji was different. He just played with him. He really is her brother, he thought, noticing how much they were alike. They both had an air of superiority and arrogance, and they walked, talked, and fought almost exactly the same way. He didn't know it, but his goddess raised Neji and made him into the person he was. In fact, he didn't even know how dark she really was. He was determined after seeing how strong Neji was. I can't stay behind anyone. It was another day that opened their eyes. Hinata and Neji were taking a day off today, which is why he was practicing controlling his chakra. He walked right by them without saying anything. His aunt told him that Hinata had gone to the park, so he planned to do the same. But Haku asked him, "Where are you going?" before he could leave the training ground. He was silent for a long moment before Neji said, "To meet my sister." Haku asked, "Can we come along?" He wasn't doing anything and only knew Hinata. Neji took a deep breath and looked at what they were wearing. He told her, "Change your clothes." He didn't want anyone to think less of his clan if they went outside the clan. Their every move and speech would affect the clan. Haku and Kimimaro both got a new bath and changed clothes in just 20 minutes. Haku was excited and said, "Let's go!" He would be seeing the village for the first time. Hikaru, Haku, and Kimimaro walked next to each other. The person who was most excited was Haku. Kimimaro was also very excited, but he didn't say anything. Just like that, the three people walked slowly toward the park with lots of energy. Ren followed Hinata with his hands on his back as her steps echoed like a beat. The three had just lied to and planted a seed in the mind of an innocent Uchiha. Uchiha was going to die in the massacre at the hands of their proud prodigy, but his death would be good for the Hyuga clan heiress before he died. Ren had been in charge of Hinata since she was born, and she always amazed him. He knew her best because he had been watching her from the start. One of the scariest things in the world was that he was sure not even her parents knew the other side. She learned the fireball and lightning jutsus on the first try, made a jutsu that could kill anyone in a 2,000-meter radius, and played with chakra like it was a toy. He had seen her really develop so quickly. If he remembered right, she hadn't cried since birth like most kids do. He knew she wasn't like other people. He had seen how well she controlled 2 kids and the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki like it was nothing out of the ordinary. He had become smarter just by being around her. He thought about it from time to time, but didn't know how or when she was controlling him. She knew how to read, write, and speak the texts and had learned all the medical books by heart since she was 3 years old. He would sometimes ask her about books she had read months before, and she always knew the right answers. It took most people decades to learn all that, but she did it in just over 2 years. He sometimes wondered if a demon that lived 1,000 years had come back to life. He got chills all over just thinking about it. He didn't go with that idea, though, because she did act like a child sometimes in front of her parents. He also wondered if she was just acting to get what she wanted from them or if she really loved them. His mind got more and more jumbled as he thought. Why would she show him her other side if she didn't want to show it to her parents? Isn't she afraid that I'll tell other people her secrets, or is she sure that I won't? Hinata stopped moving for a second and looked straight into Ren's eyes. There was a mischievous glint in her eyes that made her smile, as if to say, "You won't." Ren was really scared at this point. His steps were shaky, and his heart skipped a beat. Then he heard her sweet, melodious voice. "What's wrong, Ren? You look like you're thinking a lot. Do you want to tell us?" she asked with a smile. "And nothing, Lady Hinata," he answered right away. With the same smile, she asked, "Are you sure about that?" "Yes," was his answer. "Okay," she said happily, and she walked excitedly toward the park. She forgot that she had given Ren a mini heart attack. The way Ren looked at her made his heart race. What on earth made him think she knew what he was thinking? He was sure there wasn't a look on his face. I know her Byakugan could see into the future, but she seemed to have read my mind. Or am I that simple? When they first started going out together, it was fun, exciting, and thrilling for him. But as she grew, he felt like things were changing. Seeing her made him scared. Seeing her in this way makes me feel like I'm living in her story. I just hope I can see how it ends. They were almost at the park now. Hinata shook her head and said, "Do what I told you to do, get everything ready." We're doing it tomorrow." Ren and Ritsu both said, "Yes, Lady Hinata," and then they were gone, leaving no sign of their existence. Hinata went into the park and looked like she was looking for someone, but she didn't find them. "I will just play until something interesting happens." She started to build an ice castle out of snow with a pure smile and her soft hands. It was still early in the morning. There were more kids in the park today because it was a Sunday. They were looking for Hinata when soon Neji, Kimimaro, and Haku showed up at the park's gates. Hinata took her hands off the castle she was working on so hard when she felt them nearby. She smiled brightly as she looked at them. She waved her hand and yelled, "Big brother, I am here." When Neji saw her happy smile, he ran over to her right away. "You are here. Why didn't you take me with you?" he asked with a cute pout. "You were sleeping, and I didn't want you to wake up," she told him as an older sister would. He didn't change his mind when she said nice things. "HMPH, you always say that and leave me alone," he said. She asked, "Is my brother mad at me again?" Her tone changed. "I won't do that again, big brother. Please don't be mad at me," Hinata said. Her eyes lit up like a cute animal, and Neji couldn't help but smile. He huffed, "HMPH." But his smile didn't match what he said. Haku and Kimimaro looked a little shocked, but Neji didn't care. He was a whole different person in front of her. "Have you rested well?" Hinata asked Kimimaro and Haku as she looked at them. "Yes," both of them said. "That's fine. Let's play," she said, and her excitement was clear in her sweet eyes. Nijai asked, "What do you want to play?" "Let's make ice castles." Right away, the four of them began making castles in different shapes. They all lost track of time and played like they were kids, not caring about anything. Neji said with pride, "Look, sister, my castle is better than yours." "No, mine is better," Haku said, pointing to his small castle. The rabbit that was playing nearby agreed. "Dream on, both of you." "Mine is better," she said without thinking. Kimimaro didn't say anything about his home. His castle was just a pile of snow, so it wasn't even really a castle. "Tell us, Kimimaro, whose castle is better?" "It's mine, right?" Hinata asked, and he got all the attention. She asked, "Tell me, it's mine, right?" Neji told her, "Sister, stop making him do it." "If it isn't mine, then no one's," she said, then threw a snowball at Neji's castle and destroyed it. This shocked Neji. From the start, he knew this was going to happen. She did something bad, so he pointed at her and said, "You destroyed my castle." "Haha, what are you going to do, big brother?" "This," she said, grabbing a snowball. Hinata's castle got the same treatment as Neji's. "You destroyed my castle." She hit Haku's castle with another snowball. "What? Why did you do that?" Haku asked. "Because your castle was still standing," Neji told him. They soon began to fight with each other, and a snowball fight ensued. He hit Hinata back after she hit him. Both of them hit Haku when he got between them. Kimimaro wasn't sure who hit him, but a snowball hit him in the back. The four-way fight went on until the two boys were worn out. They were all lying on the ground soon. "I'm sure she's not here," someone said. Ino, Sakura, Choji, and Shikamaru were among the people who went into the park. "What if she's here? I don't want my chips to get stolen," Choji said as he grabbed his chips tightly. Their clan compounds were where they played for a month because of Hinata. They never went to the ground. When they finally got there today, the demon was staring at them, which was their bad luck. Hinata gave them a point and said, "Look, brother, they're here." Neji got up from the ground and began walking toward them. "Let's teach them a lesson," he said. Because of them, he could still remember their faces very well. His sister had to get hit. He found them today, the day that would change everything. Everyone in the clan would punish him, but he had to get back at her for what she did. Hinata hid behind her brother and bragged, "Big brother, they were picking on me last time I was playing in the park." As soon as Haku and Kimimaro heard what she said, they joined Neji. Their eyes were very focused, and they came closer with angry, mean looks on their faces. "Run," Shikamaru told them when he saw them coming up behind him. They used to only need one girl with white eyes, but now there are 4 of them, and they couldn't beat them. They ran like their lives were in danger: Sakura, Ino, Choji, and Shikamaru. He told them, "Let's chase them," when he saw them running away. She quickly took his hand and told him, "Don't." But why? Neji felt moved by her honest words. "I just want to scare them. If you beat them, the clan will punish you for that, and I don't want my brother to be punished. It will make me sad. Okay, if anyone says something to you, just tell me. I will teach them not to mess with us." She jumped on his back and put her arms around his neck, telling him, "You are the best, brother." She told him, "Let's go home." As a store came up to us, I asked, "Brother, do you want to eat that ice cream?" We were going home after playing until we were stuffed. Even though we were kids, everyone around us treated us with respect. Sometimes, a friendly smile makes things easier. In this way, Haku and Kimimaro will become part of my clan as they pass through their eyes. He tilted his head and looked at me. "Really, in this cold, you want to eat ice cream?" He sighed when he saw my smile while I was still on his back. He said, "Okay, let's go," and walked toward the store. "What flavor do you want?" I asked Haku and Kimimaro as I looked at them. "Everything is fine," Haku told me, and the other person nodded to show that he agreed. We walked while talking about random things after getting the ice cream. Did you see the look on their faces? They were so scared. I laughed out loud as I thought about the 4 kids. Neji said, "Ouch, you stopped me. If you hadn't, I would have taught them a lesson they would never forget." He was thinking about how he was going to beat them up. "Are you still stuck on them? Don't worry, brother. You'll get another chance in the future," I said with a laugh as I watched Neji behave so cutely. "HMPH," he muttered, and walked with his head held high. We got to the clan compounds quickly. Clan members were doing their own things all over the place. He put me down from his back and said, "I'm going home." I let him go after pulling on his legs one more time. I told them, "Follow me," and I walked toward the training ground. It was time for them to start their official training. I said, "You are the first one. Let me see how your Kekkei Genkai works," as I got to the training ground. Kimimaro then walked in front of me. His eyes showed how excited he was. I raised my 2 fingers and covered them with dense chakra as I activated my Byakugan with a laugh. It was on his left forearm that I poked. My dense chakra went through his skin, then his flesh, and finally his strong bone. Crack. The bone broke where it hit the object. I gave that point my full attention. "Ag!" Kimimaro let out a painful scream. He saw that I had just broken his bone and looked at me with tears in his eyes and a hurt face. I asked in a harsh voice, "Do you really think that the training will be easy? From now on, you will face death every day, and don't scream again. You couldn't say anything bad." I stared at his broken bones and told him, "I may be mean, but it's for your own good. Now, try to heal that bone. A deadly disease will strike him down in the future, and he will die." I did not want him to die, of course. As soon as he got my instructions, he began to fix that bone. I looked at him with interest as I saw his chakra start to fade and his wounds start to heal. "After I take care of my current problems, I'll do proper research on you." As soon as someone said, "That's good," the broken bone was back to normal. I sneered at him and said, "Now try to attack me and protect your bones as much as you can." He knew things wouldn't go well for him because of the look on his face. He charged at me at full speed and tried to hit me in the head. I took a small step back, grabbed the back of his hand, and twisted my body so that I hit him with my head. As I waited for him to stand up, he pulled out a sharp bone. He cut it diagonally, and I deflected the bone at just the right time. I poked him in the chest with 2 fingers and smiled. Crack. With my chakra scalpel, which is very powerful and easy to control, I cut his rib bones without hurting him inside. "Now heal," I said in a whisper as I hid behind him. I knew he had to be in unbearable pain, but it's better to be in pain now than to die on the battlefield and feel bad about what you did. Every poke made a cracking sound, and my hands moved quickly. In a matter of seconds, half of his bones were broken in different places. Heal. It was clear that his chakra was running out, and the pain was unbearable. Over time, he would get so used to pain that no one else could beat him. Heal. I broke the bone plate that was holding his arm in place again. Heal. 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 Every time I broke one of his bones, I told him I was proud of him and taught him basic taijutsu moves based on brute force, raw strength, and some Hyuga fighting stances. Thud. His body, which was not awake, hit the ground. I smiled and looked at Haku-chan as I said, "Your training is over. I hope you do well tomorrow." "It's your turn, Haku-chan." He nodded with a serious and determined look on his face. Tap tap. I tapped my finger on the table and looked out the library window at the moon. It was 3 in the morning, and I was done with my Byakugan training for the day. "It's time to visit my little fox," I said as I walked out of the library. Everyone in the clan was asleep, but some guards were vigilantly watching over them. Ren came up behind me and asked, "Lady Hinata, are you really going to meet him now? He must be sleeping." I said in a sly way, "His sleep will be gone after seeing me," and then I left. I went up on the terrace roof and looked around to see if there were any Anbu watching over Naruto's apartment. I was sad that there was no one there. I told them, "You wait here," and then I left. Sitting on the windowsill with one hand on my thigh and the other on my cheek, I watched my little fox sleep peacefully while the moon lit up his mouth. After 20 minutes of enjoying watching him, I asked him nicely, "Shall we have a little chat, Naruto-kun?" His body jerked, and his eyes opened wide. The blurry figure whose face was hidden by the moon behind it was the first thing he saw. Its 2 white eyes glared at him with a sparkle he didn't recognize. Not long after, his blurry vision got better, and the worry on his face turned into a smile that was even brighter than the sun. He got out of bed quickly and wiped his mouth. He spoke and said, "Hinata-chan." His sleep was gone, like it had never happened. I jumped out of the window and appeared in front of him. "Did you miss me, little fox?" I beamed at him. He turned around and looked back at me. His bright blue eyes were filled with happiness. He quickly agreed, "Of course I missed you. But look, I did what you asked." He quickly pulled a coin out of his pocket and held it up in front of me. He cut it into neat pieces with his wind manipulation skills, but he had no idea how strong he had become. I couldn't say no to what his eyes were asking for praise. With a proud tone, I tapped him on the shoulder and said, "You did well, Naruto-kun." When he found out that I was really impressed by him, he smiled big. I asked Naruto, "Tell me, how were your days when I wasn't around?" I was lying on the bed with my back against the wall. "They were fun. I remembered everything you taught me about fighting and practiced in the room, picturing fighting with you like you told me to do. And I tried to cut the coin every day," he continued. I didn't talk over him, but I did ask him about things that interested me from time to time. From the way he was talking, I could tell he had forgotten all about the villagers' whispers. When they spoke, he only remembered me, and they all faded into the background. He went on for another 30 minutes. He was no longer the skinny kid. The food I fed him was good for him. "And sometimes I just talk to you, imagining you beside me, and you also reply to me," he smiled. I didn't mean to, but as I glared at him, my back straightened up. Did he get schizophrenia? I couldn't help but give it some thought. People with this disease hear, see, smell, or taste things that aren't real called hallucinations and have false beliefs called delusions. I asked myself, did I do that much for him? He asked her, "Why are you looking at me this way?" Is something wrong, Hinata-chan? With a smile, I told her, there's nothing wrong. Keep doing what I told you. He gave me a nod. I asked, what about the Hokage? He visited me once after giving me the apartment, he said in a grumpy voice, which made me happy. Don't you think there is something fishy about it kicking you out from the orphanage at a young age, but there are still children older than you? Then giving you an apartment which the Hokage didn't give to any other orphans, I said. I don't know about it. Do you know about it, Hinata-chan? He asked me again. I looked at him like I had something on my mind. His stress level went up as I didn't talk to him. Say something, he asked tensely. Naruto-kun, it's time you knew the truth. Well, actually, I have found out why everyone hates you in the village, I said with care. And this is the reason why I am here at this late. What is it? Please tell me, he pleaded. He asked the Hokage many times, but each time he lied. This time, the truth was about to come out. After asking my father and searching for information here and there, I finally found the reason. Tell me, Naruto, when is your birthday? I asked you. Asked by the caretaker of the orphanage, 10th August, he replied. And the festival held on the same day as your birthday. People say that the 4th Hokage killed the 9-tailed fox, but from the books in my clan, I know the tailed beasts cannot be killed. I paused. He began to put things together after I looked at him. His smile from before broke apart like a flower petal falling off. The people are right. I am the demon fox, he said, looking scared. He thought that now that I knew the truth, I would leave him alone, just like everyone else. He asked with tears in his eyes, now you'll leave me too, like everyone else? He didn't want to lose his only friend. You are not a monster, Naruto-kun. You have a good heart that I want to get worse and worse, I said. I told him, you silly fool, I will never leave you. If I wanted to leave you, I wouldn't have come here in the first place. I smiled and held his hand. He asked, really? I said, I promise, and put up my little finger. He did the same thing and linked his finger to mine. I told him I would never leave him and signed it with my pinky. I told him the truth. Now let me finish my sentence. The fox couldn't die, so the 4th Hokage sealed it inside you. He asked in a shaking voice, but why did he do this to me? His eyes were still wet. I did know that. Now you understand, Naruto-kun, why the Hokage visits you. He wants you to be a tool for the village. He wants to control you and use you to protect the village. That's why he wants to gain your trust so that you can do as he says on your own. He knew from the beginning, I whispered quietly to him. His eyes were no longer wet with tears. I felt his strong grip on my hand. He finally knew why everyone hated him now that the truth was out. He knew from the start and didn't tell me. He only wants to use me, he said in a low voice. When you cry, you look so broken. But now it's time to fix you. In a soft voice, I wiped his tears away and told him, don't cry, Naruto. You are a man, and men are brave. He looked at me and was about to say something, but I stopped him by putting my finger on his lips. Listen to me, Naruto. He gave me a nod. I asked, now give me your hand. When he raised his hand, a chakra scalpel showed up on my fingers. I cut it, giving him a small cut on the forearm. When he felt pain, he asked, why did you do that? I didn't say anything to him. Following moment, the wound began to heal itself, and in a flash, it was gone for good. It had not occurred to Naruto until now, and he was shocked. See, Naruto, you can heal faster than anyone in this world. Having the fox inside you doesn't mean a bad thing. On the contrary, it's very beneficial to you. It has many abilities that are unknown, and all of them are for you to use. Naruto, I said, he's lucky to have a fox. And the fox is the strongest amongst the tailed beasts. Now you understand. You could become the most powerful person in the world, I added. Really? He asked, and all of his worries went away as I told him the truth. Of course, Naruto. I never lie to you. But remember, don't ever rely too much on external power sources. Even without the fox, you can become the strongest." He happily said, "Okay." He no longer had to worry about anything because of me, and he now knew the truth. And I had big plans for when I told Hiruzen that the fourth Hokage was his father. He was outside the window. "Hinata-chan, now that I can cut the coin, what should I do next? Can you teach me the flame jutsu you showed me?" he asked eagerly. I saw him. My name wasn't the teacher who knew a lot of jutsu, but didn't teach his students anything. "So, you want to learn the flame jutsu, Naruto-kun?" I asked him. "Yes, can you teach me?" "Of course, I can." This was all I remembered about his ninjutsu. He only knew Rasengan, which was pretty much unbeatable by itself. Is it okay if I teach him ninjutsu for big fights? When his chakra and the fox's chakra came together, I knew it would be completely destructive. He can also learn ninjutsu very quickly and well. I laughed to myself. Now which one do I teach him? That might be the best. "First, try to feel it," I told him, putting my hand on his palm. There was a flame when my chakra went through his palm. He closed his eyes, and I kept going for 10 minutes so he could really feel what I was feeling. The flame quickly shrunk and turned into a sphere shape. I know it might take a year to learn, but try to compress the flame and add more and more chakra to it, okay? Try to melt that coin in this little sphere, I told him. Remember this hand sign. It's called Majestic Destroyer Flame, and the more chakra you pour into it, the stronger it is. I showed the one hand sign, which was hard to do. He gave me a nod. He learned more about ninjutsu and fire style from me. He paid close attention and took in everything I said like a sponge. Naruto is a good kid. Just one more pass, and the sun would be up. I looked at Naruto through the window. "See you soon, Naruto. Train hard." "I will do my best, Hinata-chan," he said with a smile. I left that place after saying, "Bye-bye, Naruto-kun." With a warm smile, my mom served breakfast at the table, and I looked at her beautiful face. "What's wrong, sweetheart? Why are you looking at me this way?" she asked as she caught my gaze. I asked her in a cute way, "When does the baby come out, Mommy?" while pointing to her belly. She loved her by stroking her stomach. "So you want to get your sibling this badly?" I excitedly nodded and said, yes. "You have to wait 8 more months for that, sweetie," she said. "That long?" "Yes, now eat quietly," she told them. "That means I have about 9 months," she said. While he was eating quietly next to us, I asked my dad, "What do you want, a boy or a girl?" "I want a little brother," Neji said, joining the conversation. "I don't know, but both are better," my dad said. I asked her, "What about you, mother?" "I have you, so a son would be better," she said. I said, "I see," and then I quietly began to eat. Then or you might get a surprise. Soon, everyone was done eating. As we do every day, Neji and I walked to the training ground with my dad following behind. As planned from the start, my uncle and father taught us for an hour every day. In almost 2 years, they taught us everything except the rotation. We are the ones who decide how much we will get better after learning from them. When they asked, "Father, show us how to do the rotation technique," he only had this one new thing to teach them. He looked at us for a moment and then said, "It takes a lot of chakra to do it perfectly, so be careful not to use too much chakra." Because I taught Neji, this wasn't a problem for him either. My dad knew this, which is why he taught us in the first place. In the past, this skill was only known to the clan leader and the heir, but I knew that Neji's father knew it too, so it wasn't hard for him to learn it. Be very careful. I turned on my Byakugan and watched as my father released the chakra from all of his tenketsu and began spinning in place. This made the released chakra break up into small threads that spun around and formed a spinning chakra shield that protected him completely. You didn't have to spin to do it. but my dad wanted to show us the basics first. It's called 8 trigram palms revolving heaven, and it could go as fast as 1 in 200 kmh. To get past its defenses, someone would have to go faster than this in the direction of the rotation. And if the person using the revolving heaven doesn't have focus and good chakra control, they will push themselves out of the technique. As Neji said, "So this is how it's done." I turned off my Byakugan. My dad put his hands behind his back and said, "I showed you the technique. Now it's up to your skill to learn it." "But I know you will learn it in less than a month," he said. Nijay said, "I will learn it in 15 days. "In that case, I'll learn it in 10 days, I told him with a smirk. "If you can learn it in 10 days, then I will do it in 5 days, he said. "Oh, is that so? Then I will do it today," I said. My dad clapped his hands and looked at us. He told them in a harsh voice, "Stop fighting and start training." "Yes, father." "Yes, uncle." We both said yes and started our day's training. He watched us and then left, leaving us alone on the practice field. The day went by so quickly that we were both tired. I watched the rabbit in my arms and looked out the library window after taking a break for a while. After training with me for an hour, Haku-chan and Kimimaro went to sleep peacefully in their room. That was their current limit. I was so excited that I stood up and walked toward the exit. Finally, damn time. "It's been a while since someone tried to kill me," I said with a mean chuckle. "Ren, is everything ready?" I asked him with my head tilted. "Yes, Lady Hinata. We have picked up the target and scouted the safe routes," he added. "Lead the way." As soon as he got my order, he left, leaving behind some clues that he erased and added new ones. We finally came to a stop at the top of a tree on the edge of Kanawa, where we could see a clan that was about to die. I asked, "So he's the weakest one?" "Yes, some people with white masks, different from the Anbu, regularly monitor the clan movements. As per your orders, we will pick him, the weakest among them," he said. "Good job, Ren," I told the man, whose name I didn't know but who was going to be my test subject. "I hope Danzo won't mind how rude I was, hee hee." He used a method called camouflage to stay hidden in the dark. Without the Byakugan, it was very hard for any normal shinobi to find him. When I rubbed the white rabbit on the head, I said in a whisper, "If you do your job perfectly, I will give you a bunch of carrots." The rabbit looked at me with a face that seemed to say, "Now is my time." I let him go after laughing at the look on his face. The rabbit hopped toward the man who was hiding. The rabbit shook the bushes nearby, but the man didn't pay attention because he thought it was just rats or cats. But the rabbit shook the bushes again, and this time the man was more wary. Then he took out a kunai and threw it precisely at the shaking bushes to kill whatever was inside them. But just as the kunai was about to kill the rabbit, I flicked my finger a little and pulled the string that was attached to his leg. The rabbit came out into the open just in time to avoid dying. This thing had to live. Haku-chan would be sad if this rabbit died, and I can't make him sad as a good person. "It's just the rabbit," the man said quietly, letting down his guard. The next second, though, he heard my sweet whispers in his ear. "Surprise, bitch." Before he could think, I expertly wound a senbin needle around my fingers, stabbed him twice in the neck, and then expertly pressed on his 2 pressure points. Ren grabbed him by the neck and stopped him from falling before he could hit the ground like he was dead. Ren quickly pulled out a bag that was the perfect size for the man. Putting the bag on his shoulder like a potato sack, he tied it with a rope. Crack. Before I left, I threw a vial of poison and perfume on the crime scene. "Let's go. I can't wait to see how great you are at acting," I told Ren with a smile. He said with a short laugh, "I will do my best, Lady Hinata." Ritsu skillfully kept the clan guards busy, which made it seem more likely that he wasn't with us. We soon got to the clan, and I was sure that not even this little rabbit's fur would show that we had been there. Now the drama starts, I said as I opened the bag's rope and saw the man who was still asleep inside. The grounds were empty because we were near the library. I got out a senbon needle and stabbed him in the pressure points to wake him up. "Wakey, wakey," I said as I rubbed his cheeks. The man started to wake up and looked at me with confusion. He had no idea what had happened. "What happened to me?" "Nothing happened," I laughed evilly. I kicked him in the chest and sent him flying away before he could say anything. Ren and Ritsu quickly joined me and attacked him from all sides, but they didn't hurt him. "It's time to call Daddy." Cough, I cleared my throat and yelled, "Father, help me," from the top of my lungs. My dad quickly came over and saw how badly we were fighting a man. He quickly moved in front of the man and hit him in the chest with his palm before he could react. When the man coughed up blood, he hit a nearby wall and broke it. "He can't let his princess get hurt, right? Are you okay?" he asked, his eyes full of worry and concern. He checked me out by putting his shaking hands all over my body. "I'm fine, Daddy." With their help, I was able to act quickly. "He was about to kill me while I was reading," I told him bravely, not scared after coming so close to dying. Under my dad's worried eyes, I could see a spark of pride. "I made my dad proud of me," I yelled happily to myself. When the members of the clan heard the noise, they all gathered around the area. Ren put his head down, feeling very guilty and bad about himself. "I am sorry, clan head. I was unable to protect Lady Hinata." Everyone believed what he said because it was so true. "Oh, Ren, if I had an award, I would have given it to you for sure." He had wounds on his body that showed he had fought hard and put his life at risk. My dad told him, "Don't blame yourself. You did a great job protecting the future of the clan." He looked at his wounds and was proud of how loyal and humble he was. But I. My dad cut him off. "Heal yourself. I am very pleased with you." "Yes, clan head," Ren replied. He then began to walk toward the hospital while giving me a worried look. Soon, my mother, Neji, Haku, and Kimimaro, along with all the elders, showed up next to me. "Are you okay, my baby?" my mom asked as she hugged me tight. Her heart was beating faster than usual. "Yes, Mom, I'm fine," I told her as I gave her a hug. I sighed as I looked at her worried face. "This is the last time I'll make you worry about me, and I set this whole thing up just for you." The noise soon died down, and everyone knew what had happened. Someone had tried to kill their little princess. The man was pulled in front of us by a member of the clan who grabbed him by the hair. If my dad agreed, he said, "Let's kill him. He's so rude to hurt the clan heirs. Let's kill him. Kill him. Burn him alive. Stab him to death. Rip out his heart. Cut him to pieces and feed to the dogs. Bury him alive. Let's put melted iron in his eyes." The people in the clan started to yell and look at the man with angry eyes, like they were hungry animals that wanted to eat him alive. Neji pulled out a kunai and walked toward the man with a very angry face. "Let me kill him. How dare he hurt my sister?" Haku and Kimimaro were the same as Neji, but they couldn't move because I was looking at them. My father and mother did not stop Neji from killing the man. He was about to cut the man's heart with his kunai. But just then, I said, "Stop, brother." Everyone was ready for him to die, but what I said shocked them, and they all looked at me. "What is it, sister? Don't tell me you want him to live," Neji said with anger. I raised my hand and said, "Let him lie, brother. All of you know that I am learning medical ninjutsu, so I want this man, my supposed killer, to become my test subject. I want to experiment with various types of poisons on him. He will beg for death, but I won't kill him. Death is mercy to those who want to harm me. They deserve a fate worse than death. What do you think?" My voice was strong, like the future heiress of the clan should have. I wouldn't let them see me as a normal leader, so I showed them why I'm known as the smartest person to ever be born. Should I show any signs of weakness at this time, they will think I am not strong enough to handle things. Men, catch this man and question him about who sent him before sending him to my lab, I said, and Ritsu showed up right away. Having grabbed the man, he left the scene. This is the end of the matter. No one outside the clan can talk about it, my dad said very strongly. Yes, clan leader, everyone said, and they all left, looking up at me with respect. Older Kazuya asked, "Is this really what you want, little girl?" "Yes, Gramps," I said, but my voice was tired. Another question would have been too much for me, so the best way out was, I told my mom what I saw. I told my mom, "Mommy, I'm tired," and then I fell asleep in her arms.
I will continue the story in next part. Till then, we weeb offline.